It's also important to remember that just because someone is close to you, family, coworker, longtime friend, doesn't automatically give them ringside seats. You get to decide who sits there. Our brains and bodies are wired for survival. So when something feels like rejection or judgment or even just disapproval, our nervous system can interpret it as a threat, even if it is not. And that reaction is very, very fast. We've all felt it. That stomach drop moment after reading a text or an email. The endless replays of a conversation where you maybe possibly said the wrong thing. Someone gives you feedback and maybe you're smiling on the outside, but inside you have a full-blown shame spiral. It's not that you want to take things personally. You know logically you shouldn't. You hear things like, it's not personal, or what people say or do is more about them than it is about you. But your body reacts before your brain can catch up. And then comes the internal monologue. Those mean girls kick in. I'm just too sensitive. Why can't I just let it go? What's wrong with me? Well, actually, nothing is wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're not even overly emotional. Your nervous system is just doing its job, trying to protect you from danger. The problem is it often can't tell the difference between a real threat and a perceived threat, between a bear in the woods that's chasing you and your boss's subtle tone in a meeting. So in this episode, we're unpacking why you take things personally and what to do instead. Welcome to the Building Resilience Podcast, episode 233, Why You Take Things Personally and What to Do Instead. Welcome to Building Resilience, a podcast where theory, practical strategies, and inspiring stories show you how to unlock your best life. I'm your host, Leah Davidson. As a certified life coach, speech-language pathologist, and nervous system resilience expert, it is my mission to teach you how to be more resilient to life's adversities. I will show you how to manage your mind, befriend your nervous system, process your emotions, and even eliminate stress. It's time to do more than just survive. It's time to thrive. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Before we get started, a quick reminder about a few things. If you do find this podcast helpful, or if you're watching on YouTube, will you please share and like and follow and subscribe and leave a review? I'd love to reach as many people as possible. Secondly, just a reminder that if you want some extra support for your nervous system, if you want to learn more, then you might want to check out my guided journal that's available on Amazon. The link is in the show notes, or if you're looking for it on Amazon, it's under the brand Resilient Brilliance. And I'm excited to let you know that I have a few more things coming out this year to support your nervous system, so stay tuned. And make sure that you're on my email list so you hear first. You can also get some extra support in an amazing community in my Nervous System Journaling Club. So there's lots of ways to connect, because remember, we heal in connections. All the links are in the show notes, or come find me at Leah Davidson Life Coaching on Instagram or Facebook. So today we're talking about how to stop being so defensive. And I'm not going to be telling you to just think more positively or not care what people think, although there is definitely value in positivity, and we're going to talk about what other people think in a minute. But today is really about understanding your nervous system, rewiring your response patterns, and building tools that actually work when you're in the thick of it. But first, why does this even happen? Why do we take things so personally in the first place? Well, it comes down to the basics. Our brains and bodies are wired for survival. So when something feels like rejection or judgment or even just disapproval, our nervous system can interpret it as a threat, even if it is not. And that reaction is very, very fast. Your heart races, your mind starts spinning, you jump into defense mode, or you'll even collapse into shame. So this isn't just a mindset issue. This is neuroception, something that we've talked about before in the podcast. But basically, it's your nervous system that's always scanning for cues of safety or danger below your conscious awareness. And it often gets it wrong. Now, if you grew up in an environment where there was criticism or unpredictability or high expectations or even subtle disapproval, your system might be primed to expect danger where there really isn't any. So when somebody gives you feedback or somebody sets a boundary, or somebody reacts unexpectedly, your body can respond like it's under attack. And that's why just thinking differently doesn't usually cut it. We have to work with our nervous system. We need to regulate first and then reframe. And once you get that, then everything starts to shift. You can stop taking things as a personal attack. You can start creating space between what happens and how you respond. So I want to introduce you to some strategies and tools to help you do just that. Now, tool number one, or strategy number one, we want to critique behavior, not identity. So one of the reasons we take things personally is because we don't separate what we do from who we are. So if your boss says, "Can you be more prepared next time?" what you might actually hear is, "You're unreliable." If your partner or your parent says, "You forgot again," you might hear, "You're a failure." Now, this happens when our nervous system is in a reactive state, when it perceives feedback as a threat, not as a support or an observation. So instead of spiraling into character attacks on yourself, like "I'm the worst," try narrowing the lens. "I forgot that email," not "I'm so disorganized." "I didn't handle that well," not "I'm a terrible parent." This helps keep your brain out of survival mode. It builds self-awareness without shame and growth without collapse. Now, of course, you can be thinking that, well, other people can just be more considerate with their words or actions, and sometimes that is true. But sometimes it doesn't even matter what somebody else says or does. The lens through which you view the world is one flavored with Team Hyper, so it will be tinged with defensiveness and threat. Now, tool number two is to reframe criticism as feedback. Now, it is true that not all feedback is criticism, and not all criticism is helpful. Some people will just be throwing their stuff at you, but sometimes there's actually truth in what's being shared, even if it's not delivered perfectly. So when you reframe criticism as feedback, you shift out of defensiveness and into discernment. So you can try asking yourself, is there something useful in this? Can I take the part that's helpful and leave the rest? Do I want to carry this, or do I want to let it go? And this is where your nervous system really needs to feel safe enough to pause and not react right away. That space is powerful, which is why it is so important that we focus on building safety for ourselves with our own nervous system. Now, one way I explain this to my clients is using what I call the slime analogy. You use it when someone gives you feedback. Think of it like this. When somebody throws criticism or comments or opinions or any kind of feedback your way, it's like slime, kind of cold, sticky, maybe even gross. And you have three options. You can get slimed, you take it personally. You let it sink in. You replay it for hours and hours. And in this case, here you assume that what people are saying is true, and you end up taking full responsibility all the time, and you don't consider any other option. It can actually be very disempowering, because is everything everyone else tells you or offers you necessary or true or even warranted? At times, maybe we should take full responsibility. Maybe we did do something and we need to hear what others have to say. But it's not an automatic slime that we have to accept. The second option is to duck. You step out of the way. No energy wasted. You move to the side. Now, this one has merits too. I kind of think it often depends on where the slime is being thrown from. There are some people that I have enough history or experience to know that, right or wrong, it is not worth my energy to consider what they have to say. Maybe I know their motivation is not the best, or their heart is not in the right place, so it's not worth my energy. So I can just duck and ignore. The danger in this one is maybe the person does have a point, which leads me to the third option, which I think is the one I try to use most often. You catch it. You pause, you hold it, and you evaluate. Is this helpful? Do I keep it? Toss it, throw it back. Maybe you'll keep some. Maybe you'll put some down to consider later, and maybe you'll throw some back. Now, how do you know which one to do? And I kind of hinted at it already. You really want to look at where the feedback or where the slime is coming from. That's where Brené Brown's arena metaphor comes in. Remember that famous Theodore Roosevelt man in the arena quote? Brené Brown talks about it a lot. Well, you are in the arena of your life, showing up, doing the hard work. You need to consider where people are sitting in your arena. Some people are in the ringside seats, and those are people that you're likely going to want to trust. Some people are in the middle. And then there are the people that are in the nosebleeds and the people watching from outside. Well, like I said, the ringside people, you probably want to catch the slime, evaluate, maybe keep some, maybe toss some. The people who are sitting in the middle, it really depends. It's a case-by-case basis. The nosebleeds, this is where you're probably going to want to duck. Don't even waste your time. It's also important to remember that just because someone is close to you, family, coworker, longtime friend, doesn't automatically give them ringside seats. You get to decide who sits there. So this framework gives you agency because not all slime is worth catching. Not all voices should get full volume. We can turn the volume down of some voices or even mute them if we want. Okay, the third strategy or tool is to call out the mind reading habit. Now, mind reading is where we assume we know what other people are thinking. And when we do that, we usually assume the worst. So if somebody doesn't respond, we think that they're mad at us. If somebody gives you a weird look, we assume that they don't like us or think we're annoying. If somebody cancels on dinner plans, we assume they don't want to be friends anymore. Now, here's the problem. We're often only half right at the most. We might correctly pick up on someone's emotion, but we get the meaning wrong. So maybe your coworker does look stressed, but it's not about you. Or your partner is quiet, but maybe they're just tired, not angry with you. But when we're dysregulated, our neuroception picks up cues that feel dangerous, and we fill in the blanks with stories that match our own state. So pay attention to your assumptions because they are tied to your own nervous system state. Now, we've talked about this before on the podcast, but I think it warrants repeating here. If you remember, every situation has at least 3 stories. Why? Because story follows state. This is a term that Deb Dana, who's big in the polyvagal world, talks about. So let's say you get feedback at work. Your nervous system automatically is going to react, and you're going to tell yourself a story. But here's what's really important to remember. Here's what's really happening. If you're in a fight or flight state, so team hyper, your story might sound angry or anxious, like they're out to get me, I can never win. Now, if you're in shutdown mode, like team hypo, your story might sound hopeless. I'm never going to be good enough. What's the point of trying? And if you're in that zone of resilience, your story will sound grounded. That stung, but maybe there's something here I can learn from. So the same moment, totally different stories. So before you try changing your thoughts, you would benefit from asking, what state am I in? Because what I'm feeling is created by my thoughts and my state. And that's not just a mindset shift then that we have to worry about. It's a whole nervous system truth. If you want to get back to a state where you can choose your story, you can try using something like my safety sequence, where you first ask yourself, am I safe? Check your surroundings. Ground yourself in the moment. You want to establish safety. The second thing you do is ask yourself, do I feel safe? Tune into your body. Get curious about the sensations of what's going on internally. And then thirdly, relax your body. You can do that physiological sigh. You can focus on a longer exhale. You can do the ragdoll posture, or you can simply unclench your jaw or unclench your butt. Let the tension just drop. And then come back to the story. Chances are your story will have already shifted. Now, the next tool, you want to try to identify and anticipate your triggers. And why is that? Well, because surprise amplifies emotions. When you're caught off guard by criticism or by somebody's reaction or by an awkward moment, you're way more likely to spiral. So it can be really helpful to start tracking your personal taking it personally triggers. When does it usually happen? Who are you usually with? What situations consistently activate you? Awareness is going to be your anchor here. This is the perfect thing to journal about. Maybe you'll write about how you got feedback from your partner, and then you'll describe what you felt. I felt flush in my cheeks, in my chest. I went into a full shutdown mode. Or maybe you'll write about how your boss made a comment. I jumped to defensiveness. My heart rate went up. I had instant shame. Now, once you know your patterns, you can prepare for them. And when you have fewer surprises, you'll have way more regulation along the way. Next, I highly recommend that you take a bit of time to validate your emotion first. Now, you don't need to logic your way out of emotions. You need to feel them. Of course that hit a nerve. It makes total sense that I'm feeling hurt. Or that felt really heavy. I can hold space for that though. Now, validation tells your nervous system you're safe to feel this. Validation does not mean that your feelings are facts or you're right or this is everyone's truth, but it means that this is what you are feeling. And it's okay to validate that. And that often softens things. And once things are softened and the charge, so to speak, drops, you'll likely respond from a much calmer and more aligned place. And lastly, I want to draw from something that I learned from Adam Grant, something that he referred to as the second score. Now, I actually don't know if this is his or if it's something that he learned from somebody. I just remember hearing it and thinking it was so helpful. You carry it really into every conversation, every meeting, every moment of feedback that you have. So we can think of it like this. The first score that we often receive is how we performed, how we did something, how we showed up at something. So our performance. The second score is how you respond to the feedback about the first score. Now, you can't always control what people say, but you can always choose how you respond to it. Even if you fumble, even if you don't show up how you wanted to. Maybe your performance score was lower than expected or lower than you hoped for, but you can still score high on your self-reflection, your emotional regulation, and choosing your next step with intention. And we want to build that second score muscle, so to speak. It's actually how you grow your resilience. So let me give you a couple of examples so it's clear. The first score is the initial negative feedback that maybe somebody gives you, that you receive. Maybe it was a poor performance review or a criticism from a colleague. Your second score is the self-assessment of how well you handled the feedback, focusing on your reaction and your willingness to learn and grow. So you can control your response to the feedback, even if the initial feedback was negative. Now, another example could be if you receive, say, a D- for a project. The first score is that D-. Well, the second score is how you respond. Do you get defensive? Do you argue? Or do you embrace the opportunity to improve and to learn from the feedback? Now, by focusing on the second score, you transform criticism into a growth opportunity. You build resilience and you'll likely improve your overall performance. So let's all get practicing on that second score. And like I said, we can be practicing it everywhere, in every relationship, in everyday life. Okay, so I hope you can start to see how taking things personally is often a nervous system issue, not a mindset flaw, and not somebody else's fault. When you understand how your body works, your physiology, the state that your nervous system is in, you start seeing feedback and reactions and conflict differently. You learn to pause, or you learn to evaluate, or to duck, or to catch, and to shift your story by shifting your state. This is the work that we all have to do. It's kind of like our homework for life. Now, again, if you want help doing this kind of work, you can always join us in the Nervous System Journaling Club. In this amazing community, we use creative tools like journaling and doodling to help you explore your patterns and shift your state and build emotional capacity. So if you're ready to stop spiraling and start building resilience in a way that actually feels doable, then come join us. That's what I have for you today. I hope you found it helpful, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Building Resilience podcast. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about managing stress, building resilience, and leading a more purposeful life, then make sure we're connected on Instagram and Facebook at Leah Davidson Life Coaching. You can also subscribe to my weekly newsletter at www.leahdavidsonlifecoaching.com/newsletter. Looking forward to connecting.